well, my name's Anne Owen and I'm the centre manager here down at Transition Town Forest. I started in April and it was just when COVID was really beginning to hit. So we weren't able to have our usual tutors and courses in the centre itself. We wanted to just do something as our COVID response and have a bit of an idea of how we could help the community. And we've got these wonderful growing boxes here, which are, some are rented out, but some we grow food in every year as well for our Let's Eat project, which is a plot to plate project. So it's helping people grow their own food and then harvesting it and learning how to cook and enjoy that as well. So obviously we couldn't do that this year with the centre being limited on its usage. So instead of that, we've decided to grow our own vegetable for a project called Growing Strong. So some people have, some members of TTF and some of the gardeners as well, have put in any extra seeds or any extra plants that they have to grow this extra harvest. And we're just starting to harvest it today. There's some in the box just here. We've got some nice tomatoes and carrots and beans and a lovely courgette there. And we're going to hand this up into the people up at FACT at the town hall, and they're going to distribute it to people who have been isolated or suffering or really just in need of the fresh veg. So it's quite a small project this year, but I'm really hoping that it will grow.
My name's Janice Cooper and I'm the project coordinator for Forest Online, managed by Forest Area Community Trust. And for the last few months I've been concentrating on a community food project with Forest and Kinloss, and in partnership with the Moray Food Plus and Moray Council. And we've been delivering meals to people that have been in difficulty or been affected by COVID in many ways through hardship or furlough, or lost their job, or are suffering mental health issues or addiction issues. So it's 3-course family meals that are provided by local businesses, and on top of that they also get food recovery from local supermarkets and beautiful fruit and veg from local concerns. And today we've got fruit and veg donated from Transition Town Forest, and we will distribute that along with the meals, and the volunteers make up packages of food recovery and vegetables.
Hi, I'm Grace. I'm a volunteer with the Community Food Project. We're kind of like more hands-on, where the coordinating partners work in terms of collaborating and sourcing meals. We pack stuff up, get it out to people who need it. The reality of what exists outside of the project definitely landed, so or is in the process of landing, and in the wake of kind of realising my privilege, it's been really radicalising, I think, in terms of how we can be a community and what that means and why it's really important. It's important because there are policies which exist which mean that people live on £140 a month. And that's why we do this. That's why this needs to exist. And that's why we need radical transformational change.
I'm Ellen Garrett, and I'm a driver for this project. And I became involved with it because the need for access to food, healthy, ideally locally grown, sustainable food for this community and all communities has been pushed to the side for too long. And during these unfortunate circumstances that we're in, it's given us an opportunity to highlight that. It's more important than ever before. And so these organizations have gotten together and I think hopefully started a seed to what can be a growing understanding of the importance of food being grown in this area and provided in this area for everyone, whether they have land or not. It should be a universal right to have access to healthy food. So that's all I've got.
So my name's Jo Smithson. I've been working with TSI Moray as a community development worker So I've been quite active in supporting Forres in its COVID response, and the community has been absolutely phenomenal in terms of the kind of grassroots rising up and responding really rapidly to what's happening. And me on a personal level, I have a garden down at TTF, and that's been an absolute lifesaver. It's been where I've gone to kind of decompress, to get a bit of space, to support my own well-being. I find the gardens such an amazing community asset, and I think it's been a great counterbalance to the kind of craziness of life on Zoom as we know it, in terms of how we've had to adjust our working lives to COVID. And I think just the relief of being able to kind of go down and spend time growing vegetables has been fantastic for me, for my own well-being. And I think, you know, in terms of going forward into the future, I think the more opportunities we have to kind of grow and to kind of connect with nature will be vital. You know, I think I have huge concerns around poverty moving forward and around people's well-being and mental health. And I think organisations like TTF are really well placed to respond to some of those needs. You know, as an organisation that has a focus on the environment and well-being, I think those two things are really key. You know, I think, you know, we look at the sustainability of our communities, you know, around food, how we get food, and I think TTF would be well placed to be driving that conversation. We've had, through the food project, a lot of local growers approach us with excess harvest, you know, and obviously we've been looking at food poverty, and it's like, how can we then mutually use the resource that we've got in terms of local growers? We've got a lot of people that grow locally, whether that's, you know, us folk that have community gardens or whether it's more commercial, you know, and rather than having loads of food miles, you know, could we not find a way of joining up those people that don't have the finances to enable them to buy organic food from the shops, accessing the food surplus that we have here in Moray? And I think TTF has a place in facilitating that conversation that enables the growers to be paid in a way that recognises their work but also gets food to people who need it. And I think from an environmental point of view, that's starting to kind of change. I think COVID has kind of put a pause on how we lived our lives previously in this term of this kind of fast pace and travel. And I think one of the pluses from kind of COVID is the recognition of the importance of nature and our impact on that. And I think, again, TTF is placed to be part of that conversation around how we look after our planet and what we do. You know, and I think in a kind of microcosm, the community gardens reflect that, you know, in just a small way. You know, I go down there and the abundance of nature in terms of insects and flowers, and, you know, it just feels alive. And, you know, we could have that, more of that, you know, right across Moray.
So I'm one of the 3 enthusiasts who look after this wonderful place called Incredible Edible, and the name Incredible Edible was coined by these people in Todmorden in North Yorkshire. Mary Clare was the sort of inspiration behind it, and she just recognised that Todmorden was a very depleted town, a lot of unemployment. And she reckoned that if she could get people to do a bit of guerrilla gardening all around Todmorden, that it could start a real movement. And it's been so fantastic. And my cousin Jenny, Jenny Smith, who used to live in Kinloss, unfortunately she's died recently. But it was her idea about 5 years ago to take on board the whole idea of Incredible Edible, and she got permission from the council to have this little bit of land. So we're basically an education sort of project, I suppose. Education, demonstration, availability sometimes for things that people want to pick up, and enjoy eating, and we're lucky to be on the high street because then people get a lot of joy from what's going on here. And we're very lucky to have the people across the Kebabish cafe over there, because they have an outdoor tap and they give us free water and have done for 5 years. And so we are deeply touched by that. And so that's an important thing to say. And I have make liquid manure out of comfrey and out of nettle, and we use that for some of the plants. Yeah, I guess that's about it.
I'm Julie, and I came to this growing site, Incredible Edibles in Forres, and I came 4 years ago just because I was passing by, and I thought what a lovely idea to be growing in an old disused churchyard, for people to see that you can grow on a small site, things that you could do in your garden, all organically, and I found that it has been really rewarding to work here because we get such good interaction with the people of Forres. People pass by and say that they're really happy to see it. They come and swap tales about growing and ask our advice and take some of our produce, which we give away freely. And we've also sort of encouraged people to see wildlife as a really important part of growing. Which is maybe harder for some of the people in the town, because a lot of people see gardening as a very neat and tidy occupation and you don't have any weeds. So we try to show people that you can have lovely wild flowers on a growing site and it be part of the beauty of it. We do try and keep it quite tidy so that people see that it can be beautiful and also be really wildlife friendly. And I mean, today, for instance, like people do really like to come to this site. And I just met a woman today who was passing, and she said that they've just recently moved to the area 6 months ago, but they came to visit it about a year ago, and they passed this site and stopped and said, what a lovely town, if it's got things like this in it. This feels like a good place to move to. So, those kind of things make you feel like you're doing something that's really worthwhile. The last 6 months have obviously been a very interesting time because of COVID, and we did decide that we would only come individually. So the volunteers have only worked individually on the site until very recently. But people would pass and still be really happy to see us working the place and saying, oh, it's looking as good as it ever did. And we've had signs up encouraging people to grow at home, especially at this time, when they've got more time on their hands and they've got children with them. So people have been able to read our notice boards, and we paint them and try and make them beautiful. Children have been coming by as well, and we've been giving them samples of raspberries and strawberries and blackcurrants, and all that's felt really good. I love working here, and I don't see myself wanting to work in a way on any bigger site. I think the fact that it's right on the high street is a really good thing. But it would be lovely if other people took the idea to other spaces that are maybe neglected and did a similar thing that really appeals to them. And so it could grow. And there are lots of people in the town that are doing their own sort of growing ventures, but it would be nice if there were more of them. Somebody passed today and was interested in whether we had any lettuce, but unfortunately all our lettuces have gone. But we do have green beans. They're coming on well. They're not quite at their peak harvest time yet, but I gave her some green beans, and we've also got some potatoes. So she got a bag of green beans and potatoes, for which she was very grateful, and that's what we're giving away just now.
So I'm Christy Harris.
And I'm Nick Marner.
And we We didn't really begin the orchard project because it began from a consultation in the forest community about green spaces, and there was a lot of people that said, yay, we want community orchards. So we were just a group of people that decided maybe we could try that on.
That's right. And it's obvious, you know, Forres should be an orchard town. It was an orchard town. We've got Applegrove School, we've got Orchard Road. So let's build on that basis and make Forres a fruit town again.
So we're sitting by, how many trees? Eight apple trees down by the Mosset Tavern and the Mosset River behind us. And over in Manicky, near the health centre, is another 17 trees. Yeah. So between them, they've had a year's growth. We planted in 2019 at the beginning.
Yep.
Yeah. So they've had a year's growth, and there's quite a few apples, but obviously more to come.
Yeah, and do you remember, Christy, this orchard was planted together with a group of school children. The other orchard was planted at a weekend, so we didn't have school children, but we had about 35 or 40 people up there. And
I do remember that day.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, wasn't it?
Was it?
The song and the music,
yeah.
And a lot of community sort of pulling together,
yeah,
for the future of Forres, really.
Another nice thing about both the orchards, that we got these mystery people looking after it. This one, we came down one day and found out the place had been beautifully mown, and found out later that it was a little group working with Gordon from the tavern. And then on Manicky, there was also a mystery man, as well as a family who took the orchard under their wing, didn't they?
The orchard guardians.
Orchard angels.
Angels, even. Yeah. The orchard is really just a beginning project for people to tangibly, well, us to tangibly be able to go to something in the town and eat it from the tree. And what would be absolutely fantastic is if there's, as Nick said before, loads of orchards, but also how to grow food, the education behind it, how to grow it, where to grow it, in the different postcode areas in Forres, so it's local to people's backyard rather than travelling heaps far to get to their allotment or whatever. So yeah, a bit of like, how do we manifest this in Forres, where there's loads of growing and loads of food, because we need it, especially after this post-COVID, the COVID whole epidemic, but even before that, climate change. We just need to be growing our own food for local resilience, because if we don't, one day we'll find that the trucks can't come to Tesco and fill it up. One day we'll be just walking down the street hungry and just be like, oh my God, thank God these people grew these apples like 50 years ago.
You noticed during the lockdown how many people were working on their gardens, and how all the seeds ran out in the shop, things like that.
People came together, I think, in the lockdown, not literally, but they shared seeds, and they shared what they couldn't get from the shops, basically, to be able to still grow food.
So I think another thing, Christy, with the COVID time is that everybody noticed how everybody was painting their fences, working in their gardens. The shops were running out of seeds, and this is something which should really be built on as a positive result of what we've experienced with COVID.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I was a little boy and lived in Birmingham, and all the gardens had big, high, creosoted wooden fences, and I'd look down from my bedroom and I said to my parents, why do we take all these fences down and have one big garden where we can play and work together? That's when it started.
Yeah. Hallelujah, that's what needs to happen, isn't it? We play again in the garden.
Yeah.
I think that there's been a marvellous response in Forres to the COVID infection, and We haven't really been very hard hit by it up here, but I think it's really focused a lot of people's attention on what really matters in life and about how communities can strengthen each other, can serve each other, and how good that is for you, not just mentally but physically, and looking after each other as good neighbours. It's everything that the Transition Town movement is about. It's about the sustainability of our local places and networks. So one of the projects that we've just introduced here is using the community service chaps to come down and just help with some of the jobs down here. Obviously we've got quite a big area and there's an awful lot to keep on top of, so we've been having some volunteers coming down and they've been trimming and cutting back and pulling out some of the birch trees and trying to transplant them where they can, just to keep on top of things down here. And I think it's such a wonderful link to another area of the community that maybe sometimes gets a wee bit overlooked. I think just to encourage people to feel welcome down here, to ask what we're doing, any ideas that they can bring, how should we move forward. I think we've got such a marvellous potential down here. It's a tremendous project and we need to hear from people as to what they want and how we can take it all together forward. And I think that gardening is just the most amazing thing, and the mindfulness and all the things, the cookery, dance, everything we do down here is so important and definitely for the future of the place. It just makes a healthier community, and I think it's wonderful. It's almost like stepping back and stepping away from our really busy lives and what we think of as successful. It's stripped all that away and shown us actually what the fundamentals are, and it's here, it's in the earth and growing together. My children are very interested in it, and especially my daughter Rosie, and she's got great visions for down here. She wants to build a mud kitchen and all these things and have wonderful great things down here. Which is just lovely. It's so nice. We've also got the outdoor woodland learning project there too, so we're working with the local ranger. But I've got loads of ideas and I've got lots of networks in place already, so I'm really hoping that that's going to be a strong part of our future.